Good evening and well, good morning. We're back to our usual early morning time slots, and the postman came yesterday and he brought well, this amongst other things. And looking at what he brought me is a little power supply kit, and I thought we'd make that up, and it would be pretty much one of the essential things you would need if you were starting in electronics. This kit came from Banggood, but in no way has it been sponsored by them. I paid for this with my money, and they didn't send it to me for free, so this is a completely independent review. So it's a bit of both. Well, that's the first thing I shall have to modify, because obviously this plug is no good for the UK. So 6 amps, 250 volts. I don't know whose dreams. Well, there you go. Right, so let's just tip it out now. I find it quite surprising that this comes with no instructions at all, bearing in mind that this is a mains power supply, and you'd expect it to have at least, you know, rudimentary instructions. Although saying that, there's not a lot to it. There's some, well, there's a couple of sets of crocodile clips there. There's a component that's been wedged in there. When you actually look at it, there's not a lot to it. It should actually be fairly straightforward to assemble. A single pot 5K and a transformer and a case to put it all in. So I think first we'll assemble the board and then do the case, and we'll go from there. So anyway, let's build this kit up and see how it goes, and see what comes of it, and we shall test it out and see how good it is. Right, let's get soldering, as they say. Much the power supply put together. All I've got to do is figure out which bolts go where on which pieces of this plastic. So let's just slice it open. That's not very good, is it? It's got a broken bit. Right, rather than have you sitting there watching me trying to peel paper, I shall be back shortly. See you soon. Right, okay, now we're back, and we're sort of ready to try and put this together. I'm going to take a wild stab that these screws here hold the PCB up, as there's 4 of them and 4 holes in the PCB. Before I screw those down, I have to make sure I've got enough screws to hold that together. Mind you, before I screw all the case together, we could actually do the tests. So, let's put a knob on the end like that, just to give us that there. And because we're going to be doing testing, I could use my not a lot of electricity mains connector. And just wire that to the transformer like that. Alright, well, it says we've got an output. Let's just check. Right, so minus 9.13, so 9.15, so they both read about the same. And it drops down to 1.258, 1.2 volts. And it goes up as high as 15.6. So yeah, I think that's working there. Now the other terminal, if I went by the picture, is actually to test the voltage of a battery, so you can connect an input to that and check a battery of some description. Okay, let's check a battery, see if it... And that reads 1.56, which if I check with the other meter, 1.63. I would imagine that's because these leads have got some incredibly horrible resistance to them. Yeah, 1.56. So if we switch it that way, that's obviously the output of the regulator. I think you're not going to be able to run much off it. Now I know that, for example, let me just reach under the bench. Here we have one LED tube, and this draws about 0.5 amp. So if I remember which way round it connects, let's just go back to DC volts. Is that positive? No, that's positive up there. So with that load on it, that's only about 0.5 amp. It's really dragging the power supply down. The power supply cannot do the 12 volts needed to run 0.5 amp. So it's a very weak and weedy power supply. Okay, so we've put it together, we've tested it, and to summarise, I'm glad it wasn't an expensive kit. To be quite honest, it's really not worth, you know, even the cheap money I paid for it. As it stands, as an add-on to a further project, yes, I can see it being a useful little board. As I said, you know, before, you could use this to drive some big pass transistors and make a high current power supply out of it. You know, you could buy it, the little voltmeters, not that expensive. The fact that you get the little heatsink and the 317, yeah, I suppose, you know, you could say it was worth it for the components alone, but realistically, no. Even, you know, the plastic case being broken and cracked is just makes it a little bit shoddy, really. So there we go. The Banggood cheap and cheerful power supply, and thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks very much. Bye bye.